So, when did you actually finish the film? When was it? It was a couple of years ago.
Um,
Well, yes. It premiered. In fact, it premiered very shortly after we finished it.
yeah,
At South by Southwest last year, so March
2024.
2024. So
So
we
we
actually
actually,
finished it not that long ago.
basically in February 2024, probably the final finishing touches were done then.
Hmm.
Um, which
And
I,
how long was the process of the performance from like getting the idea to kind of doing the performance, and then how long after
hmm.
that did it take to finish the film?
So I guess the timeline very roughly was initial idea, very kind of first formulations of the idea was January 2021.
Yeah.
Then there was a lot of kind of messing about, recording little bits, working out what we wanted to do. Um, and then it wasn't really until, I guess, a year later, sort of February, March 2022, that we started doing the auditions for the performance
Hmm.
and then rehearsed from, I guess, sort of April 2022. And then we did the performance in
July.
July 2022. And then was the mammoth task of editing all that footage and kind of which was done by Pinny here. Um and yeah, then that was over the next year and a half, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean the edit was actually I was editing bits and pieces. As a filmmaker, I like to shoot and edit at the same
Mm,
time. So I was kind of like, editing bits and pieces while we were filming it as well.
mm.
Like, because I think the story emerges and then you don't really know like how that scene is going to fit. So it's always good to like, and we were recording absolutely everything we were doing because you just can't really you just kind of like go, yeah, press record on this session, and it's like a 2, 3 hour session. So there was a lot of footage to look through. So it was kind of made sense. But there was a kind of like hardcore editing bit. And I had an edit assistant for that because I'm hard of hearing, so I needed someone to help me with understanding everything that was in it and also logging it and everything and then captioning everything. So it was kind of yeah, so it was a bit of a process.
Yeah, but then yeah, so then I guess we kind of got a rough cut done by around sort of September, October
Yeah.
2023.
We got some American execs on board at that point, and they were great, and they were kind of like watching that initial, I think, 2 hour long cut.
Yeah.
And then they were like, this needs to cut, you need to cut this, you need to cut that. And
But
but
also,
they were
they were
very
helping us
supportive.
find the
But
finishing fu funding that we needed to get the film finished.
there was quite a lot of like post-production expense.
And it was just like we kind of, you know, continued to make it in every form as we went along, I suppose, didn't we?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we didn't have all the money to begin with. It was all.
We also remember we didn't really do it with any kind of commercial idea in mind, or even thinking that it was going to get into festivals even. I mean, it was literally like we had money for a short film initially, didn't we,
Mm.
from Doc Society, bless them, and they were, which is the BFI documentary branch, the documentary branch of BFI. And they have a short film fund called Made of Truth, which is very experimental and sort of like they want you to try new things and make a short film. And so it was like perfect because we were able to basically make the first, I think it was like the first third of it, first act essentially of the
Yeah, it was like
story.
maybe like the first 20 minutes or something,
But
was
it
it?
was
Or
ironing out that sort of what is the language of
mm.
the film. And actually, initially, we had another editor in who kind of was doing it. And then we realized that our kind of vision for what it could be was not really aligned. And he wasn't. So he's a brilliant editor, but he wasn't quite right for this. And so I just decided to do it myself. I mean, thankfully, I'm an editor anyway.
And I
So
think
it's
we
like,
needed someone who knew the footage so intimately as
yeah,
you did,
yeah.
to kind of find the story in there.
Yeah, I mean, we were just like literally didn't have any money. So,
Mm.
and at that point, I think by the time the editing happened, he'd gone back to doing Harry Potter, which is something that actually he lost his job at Harry
Mm.
Potter been locked down.
That's the play, just in case the play of the cursed child. That's where I guess the whole kind of it's weirdly kind of connected to the story because that's what the job that I was doing before COVID hit, and then that's like what
Gave you the existential crisis.
yeah,
Yeah.
when that wasn't happening, when all the West End theatres closed, all the whole theatre industry closed, even that, which was like the biggest show ever, that couldn't go on. It was like, okay, this is not happening anymore. Just theatre in general is not happening.
Yeah, and I think Mark was similarly feeling
Mm,
isolated and sort of existential because he was so alone and he didn't have any family and he didn't have his last family member died during the making of this, and who was like a great aunt, I think. So he was feeling really like, what the hell is the world? If I can't even see my friends, like I can't even, as a single man, I haven't got kids, I haven't got a partner,
And
haven't got
actually,
family.
that's what was so important, in terms of just having these ways of connecting in online games. I think for a lot of people at that time were really important for that reason.
Yeah, it was vital, and we realized that. And then, so I think that when we were approaching people to audition or like trying to get people involved, there was quite an appetite for doing something quite different and doing something with other people. And I think that's what's so moving, is that everyone was sort of like just jumping on board this crazy train that nobody knew really where it was going.
Because obviously, in retrospect now, obviously the film has been incredibly successful. It's played at so many festivals, it's had a cinema release, it's won loads of awards, it's had loads of press about it. But when we were coming up with the idea and getting people on board to begin with, it was just a very, very strange, weird idea. So the fact that those kind of brave souls kind of came along for the ride was amazing, really.
People laughed at it and they were like,
Yeah.
what?
I think a lot of people immediately just it kind of switched something in their brain that was like, oh my God, this is crazy, but could be really, really fun.
Yeah. And I guess people in the mindset of people at that time is almost like the whole world was strange. So everyone was like, well, though people are more weirdly up for things like trying new hobbies. You know what I mean? Like, it was we sort of sailed on that wave, didn't really like took that wave, and like people, because I mean, we ourselves are, in our 40s, early 40s, like we want to, I don't think we would have done something like this if it hadn't been for the space and kind of uncertainty of that particular time in history, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think we discovered through, and maybe you did as well, that those kind of role-playing games, whether they're like a kind of high-end video game like Grand Theft Auto, or whether it's more like a Dungeons and Dragons type thing, there's a real, I think, connection there to live performance theatre. It's about live, it's about people coming together and sharing and telling a story together. And
yeah, people can get quite pretentious about like theatre. People can sort of, there's a real divide between like amateurs and professionals. And I think that's a real shame. I think that's actually anthropologically that's a real shame for the history of our species, because the professionalism and like we like used to be in small groups of humans. Sorry, this is my anthropology degree coming out, but it kind of like where we would all of us sing together, right? We would all tell stories around the campfire. I mean, there would always be people who are better at telling stories. So, oh yeah, go on, Charlie, tell us a story, and Charlie's a good storyteller. But I think it was just this thing of like we're all capable of that, and I think that what we did with Grand Theft Hamlet weirdly allowed people to participate in something that they probably wouldn't have been able to otherwise, or they wouldn't feel confident about, or
Also, I think it's quite sort of myopic of the theatre industry not to embrace either video games or role-playing games, because there's such there's a time when theatres are really struggling to get people to go, and huge numbers of people are playing online video games, huge numbers of people do Dungeons and Dragons, and it's like there's an audience there for people who want to participate in live storytelling like that.
There is. In fact, my cousin's partner is a Dungeons and Dragons master, and I think in real life he sort of works for charities and things, but he's in this local kind of like community hall. He goes and does that, and I think that's I think that's fascinating, and he loves it. Why should we be snobby about that? Like that's theatre, actually. I mean,
yeah, definitely. have either of you continued this kind of digital performative stuff as well? Has it kind of led on into stuff?
Yes, funny you
Indeed, it
should say
has.
that. Yes, so we're working on something at the moment, a which I guess is like a continuation of that performance. And I think something we always wanted to do, even when we were coming up with this idea of just putting on the play in GTA, was to kind of bring it in or sort of merge the worlds, the kind of real world theatre world and the in-game theatre world. And so to kind of create a hybrid
Hybrid.
performance that takes
Yeah.
place in a real life, if you can call it that, theatrical setting, and at the same time in a video game. So then you bring the video game world into the real world performance space with LED screens or projections in the way they do esports, in an arena where you come and watch competitive game playing and you see the game world on big screens and you see the players there. So that's something we're doing some research and development on at the moment. With Immersive Arts UK, we've got some funding from them
Yeah,
to explore
it's
that.
really exciting because we've got there's different like levels of funding, and we've got the experiment stage. So it's like no pressure to kind of other than do a sort of informal sharing piece at the end, and that is what you need. Like when you're creating something like we had an atmosphere of that when we did Grand Theft Hamlet. We didn't have like the Royal Shakespeare Company, although we would have quite liked the support, but or anyone like that, you know what I mean, like coming and saying, "Well, have you done it? And what have you done? And there's what have you done for the money?" This is they're great that immersive arts because they've just said, look, we just want you to play and we want you to work out what this thing is.
And then we will go on, hopefully, and create something that can be a kind of sustainable model of performance, that uses this hybrid kind of methodology.
Yeah.
Cool.
That sounds really interesting because I think that there's some of the Zoom stuff, it was good, and there was a kind of everyone was trying things, which is great. And I love the fact that there was, Zoom Shakespeare, and I think one of our actors was actually part of quite an impressive Zoom Shakespeare show. He ended up playing Claudius in our show, Gareth. But there was people trying things, and it was really interesting because some really worked and some didn't.
What what was the what was the most fun in terms of the performance stuff and the film stuff? And maybe was there anything that the documentary didn't capture in terms of the kind of the feel or the emotion or even just kind of things that happened?
I think it definitely captured the feel and the emotion of it. There's obviously some details that don't turn up in the film just because we couldn't get everything in there.
So much material, and there was so much interesting stuff actually about that was really fun about the staging of the play, like little tricks that we had to find ways around doing things. Like you couldn't when we staged the closet scene, which was this famous scene where obviously Hamlet is accidentally kills Polonius, and you can't kill someone inside when you're in Grand Theft Auto, like when you're in a building. It's only when you're outside.
And that scene is very clearly an interior scene. So we had all these ideas. Oh, great, we can do it in my apartment, in the bedroom here, or whatever. This would be great. And then we realized, oh, you can't. The thing you need to happen in that scene is Hamlet has to kill Polonius. So
Yeah, I mean that has to happen. That's like the point of the scene. So we thought, well, look, then we found this kind of in the grounds of the Playboy Mansion, which is one of the kind of locations. There is a
like a grotto,
and
like
then
a cave.
yeah, and then so we were like, oh,
So
we
it
can do
has
it
this
here.
feeling of interiority, but you can get weapons out.
There's something about the feeling of it was also quite sort of damp and sort of like, I don't know, but also mysterious and strange, and it worked. I mean, I felt it was a bit like a sort of alternative Royal Court production or something like that. But there was
lots of moments like that. There was like funny things that you can't do in the game, like you can't kneel down in the game. And there's the scene, obviously, when Claudius is kneeling, and he actually says in the text, bow stubborn knees when he's trying to, come to terms or kind of acknowledge his guilt. And then Hamlet comes up behind him and now might I do it, Pat, while Claudius is kneeling. And you can't kneel. So what you can do,
Crouch.
yeah, you have this move where you take cover,
Oh yeah.
and where you're like hiding behind a wall, and then you're crouching, and it's sort of a bit like you're kneeling, and it's also got this. I think it has added meaning for people who know the game, who know that he's taking cover because it's like he's sort of taking cover from his guilt in that moment, and also taking cover from Hamlet's vengeance.
But you see, the thing is, when we were making the film as well, like I watched all these rehearsals and there was loads of these discussions around all these really interesting problem-solving
Hmm.
conversations. But a lot of the rehearsal footage, you'll notice in the film, there's not a lot of rehearsal footage. And that's because it was very difficult to listen to because all the sound, apart from everyone like Sam on the separate mic, it was like it was all mushed together. So if you had like lots of different people talking at the same time, it was kind of unwatchable.
But I guess that's the thing, isn't it, about online communication, whether that's Zoom or whether that's a online video game. There's something about everyone knows that, don't they? When you're having a Zoom, like a kind of supposedly informal thing, it's really difficult because you can't, in a normal situation, people can speak on top of each other and you
Mm.
can kind of understand, but you can't do that in virtual environments in the same way.
No, so it's like it was like a balance between what's funny and what's an amusing thing that happened and what's part of the story, and then what actually works and is watchable as a story in a film. Because also there was this thing of like we really wanted, once we sort of established what the language of the film was, we really wanted it to be a mix of kind of quite a cinematic and really to do justice to this incredible space that is Los Santos and the design of the computer game and the light changing and this kind of and also there to be sort of quite still silent moments where we really sort of like go deeply into what we're going through. And then there was also the hecticness of the rehearsals and the swinging around cameras and that gamey feel. And like lots of people have criticized us who make machinima films that have said they didn't take the HUD off, the map, the mini map and things like that. And like partly that was because like I didn't have time to set it all up like before if something was happening and take the mini map off and that. But also because there was an authenticity to that. We wanted it to still feel like you're playing a game when you're watching it. It's a documentary. It's not a kind of mission. It's not like
We don't want to pretend we're not in a video game there. That's what I think a
no.
lot of these, I start to call them machinima bros, who want to kind of tell everyone how to make machinima. And they go, oh my God, they can't even take the HUD off. They don't know what they're doing.
They do a
Because
lot of mansplaining to me, which is
they
quite
want
funny.
to they want to create something that doesn't look like it's in a video game. They want to pretend it's a film, and we always wanted it to be very clear that we are in a video game.
Yeah.
And so those little signifiers are actually really helpful.
And it's like things happen spontaneously that really like spoke to the story. So suddenly, when you were having your argument with Dippo, there was a challenge. What was it called?
Oh yeah,
Challenge
challenge
accepted.
started or something like that.
Challenge bit
Or
started or challenge accepted, and it's almost like there was it was a challenging moment, like, and also like when you saw that in the corner that were people dying, or so and so take this easy way out, or so and so's killed so and so, or whatever. And there was something about those ticker tape deaths, which was like, oh, that feels kind of resonant with what it's like on the television right now, with loads of people saying they died because of COVID. Do you know what I mean? Like it was so there was a kind of
so all those bits of kind of game graphics, I think, are really interesting and sort of add to the experience of watching, oh, this is actually really happening in a video game. And I know what that's like, maybe because I've played that game or
yeah.
I've seen people playing that game.
I mean, it's really funny because we just like had so many, well, not just Machinima Bros, but people analyzing this film like with an inch of its life. Like the people loved it, pull it apart, and praise it, but also criticize it. And I think that's just what happens when you make something like new and that people kind of think about.
And also, I think people kind of want to take ownership of it, or a lot of people who have a
Quite
passion about the
territorial.
game have a kind of feel like, oh, this is my game and I know how I play it, and And some people love it because they recognize things in the film and they're like, yes, I get that's my experience. But I guess other people who have it,
I take it as a compliment though. I mean,
yeah,
I think if you've made a film that has landed, even if it's pissed someone off, right, and they're annoyed by it for some reason, like it's great because it means that they are thinking about it
mm.
and that they've made it their own in some funny way, even if they hate it. You know, it's just
Also, I
kind of
think
like
it's not that many people hate it,
no, most
but it's
people really like it,
yeah.
but what I mean is like, you know, I've stopped reading. There's so many things that have been written about it. I'm like, okay, I've heard pretty much all of it, but probably
It's
not.
interesting. It's
It
really
is really
interesting to
interesting.
see
Yeah,
how
yeah.
people kind of have interacted with it and sort of analyzed it, as you say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then did like blog people have
Yeah.
written blogs that they've done. I've never made a film. We know I've never made a film that has had such a big
Mm.
like response, if you know what I mean. It's amazing.
And quite emotional response as well. I think
Yeah.
because of the connection to COVID, and I think people see a lot in Mark's character,
Yeah.
people who've felt alone at that time, and seeing that represented, I think was really important to lots of people.
Yeah, and we've like had people come who sort of like super fans, and they'll come to all the screenings that
Mm.
we had it. Then they want photos and they like get the merch, and you know, like they're just like it's very nice, heartwarming,
Mm.
yeah,
Brilliant. I mean, it's for me, it was kind of full of amazing scenes. Like, obviously, that world is a gift kind of cinematically, but like, there's a couple of bits where one of the characters is doing the lines from Hamlet. There's a bit of music in the background. And you just see these kind of vistas and amazing sort of places, and it just wow, it's just like waves of emotion and those kind of like rushes of kind of yeah, just adrenaline and those things that you get when you see a great scene in a film or a great kind of performance of something. Um, I mean, did you kind of was it all? Did you have to reset? Did you set any things up to tell the story, or was it all pretty much as it happened?
I mean, as I said, I kind of edited scenes as we went along, and I sometimes part them and was like, that's not gonna fit anywhere, but it's there. Um, and then you know there was sort of like moments where we actually did play around a bit with staging things. For instance, we were having problems getting hold of any theatre whatsoever to kind of come and see. Like we really
Mm.
wanted the National Theatre, we wanted the Royal Shakespeare Company, just for our own egos, to come to our live stream and like make it feel meaningful. Like we just and so we thought, well, how are we going to do that? Because you've sent emails which you can't really put inside of you. We wanted everything to happen inside the game. And obviously, not everything that happened to us was inside the game. So
Mm.
that was something that we were like, okay, why don't we play around with you? Because you can make a phone call,
Yeah,
send phone call,
and you
you
can
know,
send email, you can have a computer. So we
yeah.
thought it was fun to use that aspect of the game, that world that again is familiar to people who know it and also who don't. You actually see, oh, you can actually be at your office and send emails like you are in real life.
But it's really interesting because that scene nobody says anything about when they think it's because people like to analyze it and say what's been
And they
reconstructed
say,
and what
oh, that bit
hasn't.
was staged. But that bit, actually, if you think about it, of course that was
Yeah,
staged. But
and
no one picks up on that. I don't know why. But
it's really weird that people are obsessed with the fact that we staged the argument between us,
yeah, because I think
which
people
was
think
actually real.
because people
Um,
think, why would you have an argument in the game when you're in the same house in real
well,
life?
that's
Which
the
is,
point, is that we
yeah.
weren't really with each other very much physically. We were just playing this game, trying to
Mm.
get this show on the road. So I actually at that point had stopped being in the game, and he was on the game all the time. So I decided the only way I could get hold of him was to jump at literally at 7 a.m., go inside the game and try and find him and say, what the fuck, you just didn't hang out with me yesterday on my birthday at all. Like you didn't even come to the birthday cake or sing happy birthday, right?
Actually, if that bit had been scripted, it probably would have been a lot more kind of
Better.
formed and
And people
actually would have told the story
I
probably much better.
I would like to remake
So
that
we probably
scene
should go back and
because
script that.
I don't really like, but then it wouldn't be real. But then the thing
Yeah.
is, the weird thing was that it was real, but it didn't seem like people didn't think it was real. But it's just really annoying because I'm like, oh,
But it's
maybe I
also,
should
I
have
don't know, I think it's really
just
interesting as
scripted it
well.
better or
It's
something.
really interesting that whole thing about what's real. And that's kind of
the point.
what the point is, and that's an element of this game and of Hamlet.
We wanted
And
them,
it's like,
yeah.
what is real? Like,
Yeah, we
you
wanted
know,
people to have that thought.
Hamlet
Yeah.
is a play written in, the 16th century or the turn of the 17th century about medieval Denmark, and we're telling that story now inside a video game that was made sort of 10 years ago. But and it's kind of to do with what's happening now. It's kind of to do with what's happening in medieval Denmark. It's kind of what's happening to do within Elizabethan England. And it's all these things coming together. And it's like there's no set one real reality of this.
It's very quantum,
Yeah.
in that it's everything happening all at once, and it only becomes real according to the attention you decide to give it and make it real.
And it's also,
it's you're suspending your disbelief.
That's theatre, isn't it?
And
It's
that's also filmmaking, because obviously when you make a documentary, as Grierson said, it's the creative treatment of reality. And ultimately, you have to decide what story you want to tell from the world that you've experienced. And so even though I had all these edited scenes and all these things that happened, ultimately we had to make a choice about, okay, what is the story? I mean, I sometimes think that we made the mistake of giving ourselves credit as writers, because that makes people think immediately, oh, it's all written, it's fabricated. But
yeah,
I think
the reason we did that, I think, was because we wanted to recognize the
Mark
kind of yeah, and also the authoring of this film. Like that's the way I guess we think about filmmaking as it's not the idea that a documentary film is just, oh, this is what happened.
Subjective.
It's never that.
Objective.
There's always a choice made in what you're shooting, what you're leaving out, how you're putting it together. You're always, there's where the microphones are, where the cameras are. There's always these constructed choices, and so we wanted to kind of recognize that. But I think it does give the impression maybe that, oh, this is scripted, and
it's about authenticity. Like, people don't like to feel, once they've got emotionally hooked into something, they want to feel that they're experiencing something authentic that was real.
Well, I think different people like different things. Personally, when I'm watching something, I really like it, getting that feeling that I'm not quite sure where this sits. And I find that fascinating. That's, I think, also why we made it in this way, because we like to create that uncertainty, because I think that's what the experience of life is. It's what the experience of theatre is, the experience of video games is.
So, like, our favourite thing on television right now is the rehearsal. Because it's so fascinating. I mean, it is like there's so much to think about, right?
Yeah, Nathan Fielder.
Terms of Nathan Fielder's like approach to everything, in terms of like, okay, he's trying to find out the reality of why people are having, aircraft accidents, right? And so he's creating an alternative reality at vast expense in order to fabricate situations
to get to a truth about humanity.
But is it absolutely hopeless? Like, is he managing that, or is he lying to himself about that? And I think that's a really interesting metaphor for why we all make films and plays, because we're trying to sort of fabricate a version of reality in order to find a deeper truth. And
absolutely,
that's kind of what Hamlet's doing as well. He's like putting on a play to find out the truth of what happened to his father.
So that's what Shakespeare knows about what he's doing, and that, like, he's thinking about what he does, and he's showing us that he even does, like, in the play itself, he gives advice to actors. Well,
I think maybe we should have, I don't know, if we should have been more kind of upfront about that and showed bits of kind of recreating, but we wanted to kind of conceal it a bit. But
there was also this sense of, we're telling a story at the end of the day, and I sort of feel like when I go to the movies, and we did see this as like by the end we're like, this is a cinema and a movie, we in a like a proper, like, it's going to be on a big screen. We want to think of it as being like what we felt as children going to see something like Back to the Future. So like it's an adventure story. Are they not going to achieve this crazy thing they set out to do? What friends are they making along the way? What mistakes are they going to make? We want to be immersed in that story. Like, if we broke out of that and like took you on a journey of, oh, now we're going to fabricate this scene because this is important to the story, maybe that would have been super clever, but I think it would have been a bit wanky, actually.
Well, I don't
I don't
know. It's
know.
just that
I mean, I don't
there's
know.
different layers to it,
Truth.
aren't there? I think those layers may be there, but it's just
And I
about
think
how
it's like people think we know what we're doing. I think most people who make films, we
well
just think
you there's the
we
point is
we do know what we're doing,
there's a
but it's in like,
million ways to make any
yeah,
film, make any story,
yeah. I think the
and
point is you have to stay playful
yeah,
and have fun with it, and like just try things.
and we do, and then we yeah, and
It
we make
translates. There were so many laughs and lots of
yeah.
pathos and so much. It seemed to be a lot of fun, and there were moments of genuine kind of emotion in there as well. Obviously, I'm not telling you anything you don't know already. Obviously, what are your other favorite documentaries and video games?
Oh, well,
Well, I guess as we said, the rehearsal we really love, which I think you can kind of class as a
yeah.
documentary series, I suppose. Um, that's really interesting.
I'm trying to think of something that we've seen recently
Uh,
that we've enjoyed playing as well, game wise.
Game wise, I've been enjoying playing Cyberpunk recently. Really enjoying that. Looking forward to when they bring out a new one as well.
Which
Um,
will be for it won't be for ages, but
uh,
we still
um,
play Grand Theft Auto quite a bit.
yeah, I love games as well. Some of the kind of smaller. I loved that game Inside. It's sort of like a kind of 2.5D platformer puzzle thing. It's got an amazing kind of atmosphere. I think it's a Danish company that make that.
I mean, I'm a big sort of Werner Herzog fan. I mean, lots of people think he's a bit of a wanker, but I I love him because he's the one who says, you're not when you're making a document, he doesn't like to differentiate too much between documentary and fiction.
Mm,
And actually, what's really interesting in his fiction films, which some of them are absolutely terrible, but they're fascinating. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but some of them are too long and they go on a bit. But he is always there is always a sense of uh risk and
mm,
liveness and intrepidation. Like, are they really are going to try and get this ship over the mountain situation? You know what I mean? Like,
mm,
which I think really fascinated me when I was a young person and I discovered his films and like, and it was exciting and it kept me watching, and his documentaries, like there's this The Land of Silence and Darkness, which is about deaf blind people. And it's
mm,
just about kind of human experience and kind of like that, imagining what it's like to actually be deaf and blind, especially for a filmmaker, it's really,
mm.
and that for me as a filmmaker, because I went deaf, sort of like, and I guess, but it's similar in that it's sort of like that liveness, the fact that we both realized actually that even though we do separate things, like for a long time we didn't work together, and I was a documentary filmmaker and ethnographer, and you were a theatre actor predominantly, although you
Mm.
did do television and stuff. But you loved theatre so much, and I made films about theatre. I made lots of films about National Theatre, and also made a whole series on Katie Mitchell, and so, and you and I made
Yeah.
this film called The Hour. We realised that we both love responding to in the moment to liveness. And actually that is funny enough what computer games give you as
Well,
well.
especially online video games as well. It's very much about liveness. It's about, yeah, being in the same co-present in the same space in the same time with other people. And
Mm.
that's what you're doing in documentary films as well.
Yeah, I just love that moment.
Responding in the moment.
And you think, oh, I'm going to put my camera over here and try and get this
Yeah.
person's expression because you have to anticipate all the time and think what's going to happen next, or I have to make sure I'm there for this, and you don't really know. And actually, that's the magic of it.
So there's an interesting kind of thing about these three forms, I guess, that we were mixing and merging of documentary film, theatre, and online video games, and why they kind of seem to mesh well together. And I think that's because of liveness
Mm.
and chaos.
Like chaos, and I think probably Werner Herzog's
Yeah.
fiction films have an element of chaos to them, which I quite
Mm.
like.
Like, did you kind of screen grab? I couldn't quite figure it out when I was watching the edit. I'm a bit of a nerd about such things. Like, did you sort of screen record from different characters all at once in those scenes, like a couple or three at a time, so that you could have like the kind of cinematic grammar of cutting?
mainly two, wasn't it?
So yeah, except for in the performance, I think that
We had
Mark
three.
was also recording his
But most of the time we
feed.
had just my feed and Pinny's feed, probably predominantly.
Mm.
Um,
And I used to have a go at him all the time because obviously he had to like direct actors, be the main show person in the show. And I was like, your camera work's terrible. You're always swinging
I was like, I'm
around.
trying to
You
survive
can't
here,
do this.
like,
And I'm like, have to edit with this shit,
yeah.
And then I'm like, so like, and you're like, do you understand how much my brain is exploding right
Yeah.
now? I'm like, okay, fair enough.
But I guess so. It's worth. You'd be interested if you're kind of a nerd about this. Like, there's yeah, we had basically two cameras for most of it, but there's three different ways of seeing the world, and therefore that's the footage you get. You have the third person view where you have your avatar in front of you and the camera's behind, and it kind of swings around. You can go into first person. So then you become like the camera, and obviously that's quite useful as a filmmaking tool, but it's still got quite a lot of motion and then you also have your avatars have a phone with a camera on, and so you can take that out and use it as a camera, and that's gives you essentially a tripod because it becomes very still, and you can zoom in and out, and you can pan,
You
and
can
you
do
can tilt,
close-ups
you
of
can
people's
yeah.
faces.
So then I think once we discovered that, that was a really useful tool.
But obviously every game is different, right? So if you're making machinima in a different game, like Call of Duty or another kind of
You have
game,
different tools,
different tools, different ways round in order to make imagery. And in Grand Theft Auto is a really flexible filmmaking tool.
Mm.
Have you ever did you ever come across Steam VR chat before this?
VR chat. Well, there was a film called was that VR reality?
We met in virtual
We met in
reality.
virtual reality, which we saw actually at CPH Docs the year that we met our producer Becca.
Yeah.
And we met the filmmaker. Have you seen that film?
No. Is it good?
Yeah, it's really
It is really
interesting. Yeah.
interesting. It's very formative. I mean, it was one of those films that, really broke some ground in terms of but
It's very different.
very different to what we did because it's VR and not the film's flat.
But it's not really so much VR chat, I guess, is not really so much a game. It's more of a kind of arena in which people go in to kind of socialize, I suppose.
I mean, I think the thing that you've got to think about these different environments is that you've got to think, okay, jeopardy is a big part of storytelling, right? And with Grand Theft Auto, you have a lot of jeopardy because people are trying to kill you all the time.
Mm.
And so you have that you're constantly trying to kind of navigate this quite hostile environment. Well, something like VR Chat or Second Life, you are just there. It's a kind of metaverse. You're kind of just there. And yes, there is an element of that to Grand Theft Auto in that you can get away from being killed and you can go into the mountains and hang out or whatever. But I think the threat and the jeopardy is actually what makes it interesting to watch.
It's drama.
A bit of drama, and I kind of want to stay away a little bit from those metaverse
yeah.
unless you had a reason, like you
Yeah.
Well, I think Parteb is an amazing character in the film, and his audition was like in the moment when it happened was an extraordinary moment, and I think it is in the film as well. It comes across like that. It was, yeah, genuinely quite a kind of, just you felt everyone still out of this moment of chaos, and then suddenly we were there listening to this kind of extraordinary rendition of the Quran.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because for a long time we didn't hear from him and we couldn't find him online. This is after we finished the film. Like we'd done the film, and part of us was like hoping he was going to turn up at like a screening in Finland or something and come and say hi, and we were worried. We were like, oh no, like hoping, he gave permission to be in it, but we were like, well, and then all of a sudden he reaches out and he says, I've finally seen the film.
He absolutely loved it.
He absolutely loved it. He like wrote this like long essay about it and all the things he thought. And so that was nice. And he, so I guess it's weird because there are moments in the film that I like, but there's also moments that the film generated outside of actually the film itself, which were really quite profound and interesting in terms of our continued relationship with the people who were in the film and how they responded and stuff. But yeah, no, that was that moment, and of course, you know,
It's the moment in the dive bar as well.
the moment. I mean, that probably is for me the heart of the film.
Yeah.
In the soliloquy that you were battling with, you were trying to. There's enormous pressure on an actor to perform that well, you know, and you were almost actually just about to say, I can't do this show. It's too much pressure, and direct it. And we were just messing around in a dive bar, and all of a sudden you say the soliloquy, and it's like there was very
To be or not to
magical
be.
because you know, to be or not to be, and then the NPCs, the non-playable characters, start looking at you and responding to this beautiful text, which is obviously 500 years old or so, you know, and they're not responding. That's an illusion. They're just part of the game's machinery. They're the background artists. They're the NPCs. And yet there is something about them. And it's very emotional. And as a filmmaker, I realized, oh my God, I can use this as a mirror, you know, to what he's feeling and
it felt like they
the text
were
as well.
helping me connect to this. Really, you know, that's like such a difficult speech to do because it's so well known. It's so over known. It's so been spoken so many times that, you know, it's almost lost all its meaning. And, you know, and then it suddenly I found a new meaning in it by talking to these NPCs.
I can't actually remember the film whether there's much of you actually talking directly to them other than outside the text, but you did do that, and you said, "Well, you're having a hard time," or something like that. And they were talking about, you know, the stings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and you look to this NPC, well, you're having a hard time.
You're clearly
you know,
going through the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
Yeah, and I guess there's something from that, just to give you a little clue, that we want to take with us into the next piece of work that will be this hybrid piece, which is very much like, how do we interact with our devolved self, which is the avatar that we have on screen and that we have represent us within game spaces, but also how do we interact with the actors who are in avatar form if we're physical.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, it kind of, as you were saying it then, I was reminded of this whole kind of notion of the digital twin, and also, you know, being an audience member in a drama or a story that's unfolding, you put yourself into those characters, and you see either somebody else is testing them, or you're testing them, or your brain is sort of trying to figure out what they would do if, and making those choices. Really, really interesting. I mean, I think indeed. So which was the greatest line from an NPC? I mean, I didn't notice like tons and tons, but which was your favorite line from an NPC?
Oh, I think it's when he says that toilet cleaner's got me real messed up. Fuck. Which is right at the end of To Be or Not to Be, which is a great button.
So there's a funny thing that we realized when we were recording the two lots of footage, right? And obviously you both see the same NPCs. But what we realized was that the things the NPCs were saying to me, I was different to Sam.
In the same moment.
That's like, isn't it? Like, how is that?
That is very quantum.
Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah.
Indeed.
So we had
brilliant. Well, it sounds like your next piece is going to be really interesting. I bet you can't say too much about it, can you?
Well, we can. I mean, yeah, it's all in. We're researching and developing it and
it's
experimenting.
Working title is Be the Players Ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're literally just doing it now as we speak. We're kind of having meetings, we're like doing R&D. So we don't know what it will be. So I guess
it's exciting though.
We'll tell you as much as we can, like, because we don't know. We're not like obsessed with tech, actually. We're kind of more like, what idea have we got? And then what technology is there that could facilitate that, rather than the other way around? Because a lot of people think in like immersive art stuff, they're like, oh, we can use this fancy new piece of kit, and then they do it and then it breaks down in the middle of the thing. And it's like, the problem is that I think the idea should come first, and then you should basically connect with someone who knows about that stuff, and then they go, well, you could use it like this, and you use technology in new ways that way. You know what I mean?
And so you keep in touch with the other players in Grand Theft Hamlet?
You had Christmas with Mark.
Yeah, we do. We obviously keep in touch with Mark a lot, and every so often, a lot of them have come and see the film in various places, so we've seen them there, and some of them are more difficult to keep in touch with than others, but
Some
that's
we've never met in person, like Parteb and BT Raiders, but that's because they live in other countries and
yeah,
things. We see Jen occasionally. We see
Lizzie,
Lizzie and
Gareth,
Gareth. We had a barbecue. Actually, we had a watch through
yeah,
of the whole
of the
of not
performance.
of the documentary of the performance, which
Yeah.
was live
But
streamed,
that's the other thing,
obviously.
actually, because I know a lot of people see the film and they're like, oh, we want to see the performance. It's not online. And there's various reasons for that. But we are in the process of going to be making that available as an educational resource, like a kind of the stream of the performance, because we think that would be a great resource for people studying like Hamlet for A level or, to be able to watch that. So
Yeah.
That would be great.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that will happen. There's a lot of technical, logistical, legal issues to kind of sort through for that, but we're getting there.
Yeah. People get quite
Cool.
angry about it not being available yet.
Yeah.
They're like, we're trying.
I got called an idiot and an asshole for not having it available. I thought that was
From
quite,
someone from a top American university.
yeah, I thought that was quite impressive.
So it was like, excuse me, like, you
Wow.
know.
Well, it would have been, how long was the performance in total then?
It was 1 hour 40. So we did a very good cut of the play, which I think any production of Hamlet shouldn't really be any longer than that. It's way too long, let's
You're
be
not
honest.
rannering it. You're not doing
No.
Kenneth.
I mean, there is a reason, you could do that,
But
but
no, but Kenneth had to do it because that's what he wanted to do.
yeah, he can do whatever he
And
wants.
he can do what he wants, but we would like to have it short and sharp.
Yeah.
And also, to be fair, there was lots of bits that we cut out, like the gravedigger scene and stuff like that, because we couldn't find a skull.
Yeah.
Right.
So we
It's difficult
couldn't
to hold a skull,
we
and
couldn't
also,
like
yeah.
make all, and you can cut that scene of
And also we had a limited number of actors, so we had to do the right kind of doubling and
So yeah, some Hamlet purists would be very disapproving generally.
well, I don't care about that because I don't think there is a pure version of Hamlet. It's all up for grabs. There's like all these different versions, several different quartos, the folio. No one knows. There was never any kind of one like platonic ideal of the text of Hamlet. It's
And it's
like
really annoying because lots of people like really kind of like vilify Shakespeare the person, but actually it was a company of actors that devised that play. Yes,
vilifying. You
not
mean don't you
vilify,
mean
that's the
like
wrong word.
put on a pedestal?
Put it on a pedestal.
Yeah,
Vilify is the wrong word. I
yeah.
mean, they
Idolize.
idolize, that's right. Not the opposite. They like, they kind of idolize and they think he's like, we've got this culture of this genius culture in this, and actually the most amazing creative acts are collaborative, I
And
think.
that's what all his plays were. So the company of actors who were, the text that we have now is variously like a recollection of what someone thought they remembered seeing, or the roles that were given to the actors, or bits that they may have, there was a lot of it I think was quite improvised.
Burbage would have said, "Oh, I think that line's shit. Like, can we just put this in?
Or he
Like,
would
put in
have
this thing?"
responded in the moment to
Yeah.
one of the audience members there or something,
Yeah. And then sometimes he would have shifted around, like Shakespeare would have gone on stage for a bit and done something. I'll be the grave digger tonight. Like he would have done the grave digger that night, and it was like a bit more rough. You know, that's how they would have done it. I
Mm.
think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's articulated clear. It's quite, I guess for this, it's quite interesting to think about the layers of audience that we had in the performance. That maybe that doesn't come across so strongly in the film. Like,
Hmm.
obviously, we had an in-game audience, so other avatars in the server with us, other players in the server who were watching. Oh, hang on, let me put the captions on.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, other players in the server who were with us going around following this kind of weird promenade performance in the game. Um, and then there was also a live streamed audience on YouTube and Twitch who were kind of commenting as the performance went on.
You do see that in the
You see a
film.
bit of that in the film. We overlay some of the comments on the screen. And then yeah, in terms of what we're
The
work,
Avatar audience, mentioned them already.
yeah,
Yeah.
and but then in terms of what we are working on now, is integrating a kind of IRL audience into that mix as well. I think that's quite interesting. And also, you've got the other level of the audience in the world of the play, in the world of Hamlet, because Hamlet's, first of all, he's putting on a play, The Mousetrap, in it, and he's watching, and he's watching. He's an audience of the audience because he's watching Claudius to see what his reaction is.
He's like me because
Yeah.
I'm like watching audiences.
Yeah, exactly. He's like an ethnographer, really, isn't he?
He's an
like kind of,
ethnographer, yeah. But he's
um,
trying to catch the conscience of the king.
yeah. And then there's also, but then there's times in the play where he's a kind of unknowing performer and other people are watching him, like when Claudius and Polonius are watching his interaction with Ophelia in the play. They're like creating a performance almost that he doesn't know. She's acting because she knows they're watching, but he doesn't. So I think there's all these really interesting things in Hamlet about audiences, and obviously in this particular production we were doing.
He's going through it at the moment, making notes like
Yeah.
what we're going to use for our show, like
Yeah.
the hybrid performance.
So I think audiences and spectatorship in this is really interesting. And also, that's a great book, by the way. It's really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
And this whole idea of spectatorship in video games as well, because when you're playing a video game, you're the protagonist, but you're also a spectator at the same time because you're obviously watching everything on the screen in front of you. So that's all I think.
I mean,
super
he's
interesting.
writing his PhD at the moment at York University, about all this, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm not just writing it, it's a creative practice. So
Creative practice.
it's doing stuff and writing.
Mm.
I read in one thing that you had made a I can never say that.
Machinima.
Machinima movie. Was that out of the GTH stuff as well? Or
A
was that a
short
separate
film you
project?
made.
Yeah, so before we did this, I'd made a short film which was just of like the kind of initial experiments, and like including a bit you see in the film of when we do the opening of Hamlet in the Vinewood Bowl, because that was all stuff I'd sort of started recording before we kind of had the idea of really doing the full production and auditioning and everything and rehearsing. That was just me and Mark trying it out. So that I put together with a couple of other experiments where I was trying to perform to people I met in the game and made a short 10-minute film.
You did a bit from The Tempest, didn't you?
Yeah,
To a lady in suspender belts.
yeah,
But the short film actually won awards. It was at the Machinima Film Festival.
yeah. It won
And
the
all so and was seen interestingly and very much embraced by the artist community. Like
yeah,
people, they saw it as a piece of art more than a short film in a
yeah,
film.
sort of piece of video art, really.
Yeah, which I thought was very interesting because it's almost like, I don't know, there's this weird thing where you've got artist filmmaking and then you've got like short filmmaking, and obviously they're quite different, but
Mm.
there's crossovers. I mean, something like the London Short Film Festival definitely does a crossover too. But yeah, I think that's where you sort of worked out that it was going to be something you want to carry on with.
Yeah,
Because I think that scene's really special. I mean, it was one of the ones I was going to ask you as to whether that was like a setup as a viewer. You're bumming around in COVID in GTA, and you sort of get the idea of you and Mark as characters, not necessarily doing anything else, and having this space to be in, and then finding that venue is like hugely, it's just a really brilliant moment for the audience where because you kind of know what you're gonna do by the name of the film, and obviously then you watch the film, and then that moment is really, it just feels like the discovery of it in so many different ways on so many different levels. So I love that scene. It's just amazing where you find the bowl.
That's real. That's a real scene, and I think that you started recording stuff before I got involved. And that was one of the scenes that you found this place.
because I guess my my way into this whole world was seeing other YouTube videos of people doing stuff in video games. So kind of before I was aware of thinking, oh, I know I'm going to put on Hamlet and GTA, I was always thinking, this is such an interesting world to explore. I'm probably, going to make some weird little YouTube videos or something, or maybe a short film or something like that, but just of weird things going on inside a video game. So I was a lot of the early stuff, I was just kind of working out the best ways to record it, and hanging out with Mark and sort of messing around.
So, because that's part of you, amongst other things, you were messing around playing, like, going to the arcades, alleys, and driving
Mm,
cars. But a big part of who you are and how you know Mark is obviously through classical acting, and like,
yeah,
and so obviously that was going to come into their conversations, and then when they found the theatre. But you had the things we didn't include in the film were just to simplify the story a bit, was an
yeah.
awful lot of hanging out and trying things and
And
doing
actually,
weird shit.
I think the funny thing is so we've obviously found the theatre, came up with it, yeah, we could do something here. And then we did practice a lot doing that opening scene in various different locations. Um, and then so we knew it quite well. And then when we thought, well, actually, let's try and do it, because to begin with, we were just practicing it. Okay, we'll just do a we'll kind of record it as like a film. And then we had the idea, well, why don't we get people to come and watch it? We've got this theatre space. We could actually see if people who are in the game with us would come and watch it.
But meanwhile, you were also on your own without Mark, playing a lot of games, and you were
Yeah,
like exploring the map, and that woman, and you happened to be a
yeah,
bit of the tempest to her. And I think that was the beginning of you. That's not in the film, but it was in your short film. And I
yeah,
think that was the beginning of you thinking maybe we should do a promenade performance
yeah. That's true.
and
Yeah,
like go outside of this theatre. Like we've got the whole of the world, and it's like, as they say in the film, it's like a $1 million budget. Elon Musk's, suddenly investing in on. Obviously, that was before everything happened with Elon Musk, but yeah, it was kind of yeah, that was the kind of light bulb moment, I think, for you. Um,
yeah. It was interesting actually because when we discovered that theatre, that was such a strong moment in thinking, oh yeah, we could put on a play here. And for a while, I was thinking, yeah, this would be really fun because we've got this theatre and it's a very kind of classical ideal of a theatre. Wouldn't it be funny to do a whole play in here? And that was I was quite attached to that idea for a while, but then obviously it became apparent like, look, the whole 70% of the joy of this game are all the incredible locations, and we've got to use that. And there's so much fun to be had and so much beauty to be had in exploring this. So let's take it out of the theatre. We did actually use the theatre as the location for the play within the play, because that felt like an appropriate use
yeah.
within the kind of world of the play to kind of
There,
use it as a theatre space.
there was actually a whole section of the film, which I don't even remember. I cut it because I was trying to keep the film under 90 minutes,
Mm.
where you decide to do a promenade,
Yeah.
where you kind of go, you know what, I think we could, and
Mm.
I think that included you doing that soliloquy to that
Yeah.
woman. And I think so there was a whole little kind of segue into, oh, we can explore the map and stuff. But storytelling wise, it just wasn't like compelling enough
Yeah.
to kind of. And the thing about the film is it really rollicks along, like it keeps you gripped. But if you want to keep that pace, you need to kind of get rid of some really interesting
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
exploration moments.
I mean, as you say, I mean,
Yeah.
one last question then. What's your kind of biggest learning? What did you feel like was the big aha or kind of subtle kind of, well, I never would have thought that from it all. And maybe you've said it already, I don't know.
My biggest learning was don't wait around for someone to give you permission.
Mm.
Like just do it. Like if it's possible. Um, like, you know, use bits of money from whatever you can get together for different things. Like I think you were doing something at that Swiss university and they gave you a bit of money and
Mm.
you paid like that helped us get the production off ground. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
You just got to find
it's
whichever way
it's
you can.
it's like, you can wait for permission from the Arts Council or
Yeah,
a
because
grant
yeah.
from or the Royal Shakespeare Company or the National Theatre or whatever it is that you think is a sort of needs to give you that permission. Because it just may never happen. And if you've got a good idea, try and find a group of people that are prepared to do a crazy thing with you.
Mm. I think as well, there's the thing about like resilience and like keeping on going, like when you get a lot of knockbacks when you're trying to do something. And this is something that ties into the experience of actually playing a video game like Grand Theft Auto. The amazing thing is you do keep getting shot and it can be annoying and someone griefer comes along and blows you up again and again and again and again. But the beauty is that you can keep respawning and keep going again and keep trying again. And that's kind of what you have to do when you're trying to do a big creative project like this, because you will come up against so many obstacles and so many people who put obstacles in your way.
And you need the obstacles. If you don't have the
Yeah,
obstacles, you don't learn anything.
yeah. But you can't,
You don't have a story.
but you have to keep, yeah, keep kind of respawning and going
So
again.
it's about like whenever anything bad happens to you, twist it in your head and then change it and make it a thing
Mm,
that is kind of
mm.
actually makes it stronger, what you're trying to do.
Brilliant. Amazing. Really, really enjoyed talking to you both. That's
Yeah, us too, actually. Yeah, so thank you.